Hello, dear viewer. Do you know how hard it is to uncover the truth in a world full of secrets and shadows? Today, Q&A meets one of the most renowned investigative journalists in Kenya. Dennis Onsarigo will be telling us his journalism journey and how things have been when he was in the field. Dennis, welcome.
Asante sana. That's very brilliant of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Today, we want to ask you some questions concerning your career. Since you've been an investigative journalist, we understand that's not an easy task. It's not a walk in the park, that's what they say. What inspired you to pursue investigative journalism, and how did you get uh, uh, started in the field?
Um, to be honest, nothing inspired me. I think it was a calling. So, and sometimes you'll never know where this calling will come from. But when I was young, I was very inquisitive. And when I joined high school, I then joined the journalism class, where I became the chairman of the journalism club. Then from there we started doing news stories. We asked the administration to purchase for us a radio cassette recorder. That time we didn't have this kind of recording devices. Then we started recording news. So our national news were news about where President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi will be that week, or what the government was planning for the nation. But our local news was about there's water leaking in Dom A, there are fleas in Dom C, there was a sports event in school and Team A won. Those were our local news. So, in fact, it was very surprising. It got to a point where now the teachers will wait for the news to understand what exactly is happening in school. So that's how I got into the field of journalism. And then later, when I finished high school, I joined college. I went to Kenya Institute of Mass Communication, where I went to study journalism. That's how I got into journalism.
Okay, thank you. We understand investigative journalism is a bit harder than this other journalism world. How do you build trust with your sources?
I think first it's credibility, and then again, my my field of journalism was about crime, especially crime reporting. So I realized it is a field that was less reported about, and there's something binding, or there's something that brings people together, is issues to do with crime, because crime touches everyone. So the moment I started reporting about crime, then I knew I'll get a following, because crime touches everyone.
Yeah.
If someone dies somewhere, people will want to know how this person died. If someone has been robbed somewhere, people will want to avoid going to that place to avoid getting robbed. So that's how I built my sources, and my first sources were in security sector. So I had sources in every part of this country, every corner of this country. I had sources. I still have sources, by the way.
That's
Yeah,
good to hear. Do you
exactly.
think Kenya will ever have people like Dennis, John Alanamu, Muhammad Ali, and the rest?
Yes, I mean, we are as good as the work we did. The other people are coming up, and when they do come up, I think they'll be given also a chance to shine like we did. But I'm glad that journalism has not died, and I'm also glad that investigative journalism has not died. So there's a big chance that there will be other Jonala Namus, there will be other Mohamed Ali's, and Dennis Onsarigos going forward.
Can you share a story about one of the most challenging or rewarding investigations of your career?
I think, and that is perfect. I think we'll cut Leo.
Yes, yes, no problem.
Uh, I think the biggest investigative story I did was about cocaine. And this was a story that took place in 2004, where the Kenyan government discovered a cocaine consignment in Malindi worth 2.4 billion shillings. And back in 2004, 2.5 4 billion shillings was a lot of money.
Yeah, of course. And still it is.
And it still is. But that time, the value of 2.4
Yeah.
billion shillings
Was
was
a lot.
like 10 billion shillings then, not now. So we started investigating this, and then we came to realize that top government officials were involved uh, in uh, in uh, in concealing this crime. Some people were arrested. Most of them were foreigners, but they were given a safe passage to leave the country. And a few people were arrested back here who were Kenyans in Kenya, and but they also let free. So we started investigating that story to a point where we had to leave the country for 1 month because our lives were in danger. So we left the country, we went to Norway for a month, and then we came back. I think that was the most intriguing story that we did as far as investigative journalism is concerned. One that I think touched the highest office in the land, where people felt we have crossed the line. That was one of the biggest stories. The second biggest story is about poaching. I think I shared this today in some training in Garissa, where KWS officials and rogue police officers were involved in poaching and blaming it on innocent Kenyans. We did it, and it led to a policy change. It also led to a stop into poaching of rhinos across the country. I think that is one of the biggest stories that I did. Among the two biggest stories that I did, that I call that had serious impact not only on society but also how government was approaching the issue of poaching in the country.
Thank you so much. Was there a point in your life when you thought of quitting this thing?
No, not a point in my life, because I think I loved my job. There were initially there were days when I just started journalism. You'll feel the pay is low, but the moment I realized I'm building a base, I'm building a following, I'm building a credibility, I got more emboldened. I got more bold. I also got a lot of support from um, from my employer. I mean, Nation Media Group made sure that I got all the support when I started as a journalist. Standard Media Group made sure that I was well protected. Every time I did a story, Standard Media Group will make sure that my life and the life of my family
Safe.
was secured. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Denise. Moving on to the next question. What was the most challenging moment of your life while you were on this mission of investigative journalism?
I think most of the biggest challenge was when you had non-responsive sources, where you worked on a story and you want to run it, but you can't go on air with that story unless you get a response from some of the sources you wanted. So a story that was meant to run, let's say, after 1 week, it will take 2 or 3 months to run because you have to wait. And again, because and at times also we could lack uh, um, access to places. We could lack access to information, especially one that is being held by government or by the police. So that became one of the biggest challenges for me. But it was not as challenging as running away from all the enemies that we had created in the line of our job.
Okay, thank you. We understand you've been traveling for stories all over the world. You had missions. What was that one thing that you can say surprised you most?
I think the biggest surprise for me and the biggest shocking event in my life is when I went to cover the Kenya Airways crash in Cameroon. Uh, and for 5 days when we were in Cameroon, the authorities had not cited where the plane crash site was. But when they finally did, we started going to that place. And what shocked me most is that we walked for more than 5 hours in the night in a forest, try and locate where the plane had crashed. But unknown to us, when we got to the site where the crash was, because it was pitch black, pitch dark, sorry. Uh, we got there, but we were not aware that where we were standing on the remains of people who had died in the crash. And
Painful.
yes, and the place was swampy, but because kerosene, which is jet fuel by extension, because there was a lot of kerosene, it had concealed the smell from the decomposing bodies. So that night, we were just stepping, it was a swamp. We were just stepping on dead, on human remains. It's only the following day when we came back is when we realized how bad the situation was and where we were. We were in the middle of the dead and we had no idea. That, I think, one was the most shocking evidence for me, events for me in my life as a journalist. Yeah.
What role does investigative journalism play in the society?
A very big role because um, they speak the truth to power. They also speak the truth to what challenges a nation or society is facing. And it's through investigative journalism that people are able to understand that there are evil things, there are bad things that are being done behind their backs. So they play a very, very, very big role.
How
And
long? How
yes,
long does an investigative report take?
it can take a month. There's one we worked on, like the cocaine story. It took us 9 months to have it on TV, and most of the time, my other colleagues in the newsroom will start complaining that these people are not working. How come they can only do one story after 6 months or after 7 months? But we had very supportive CEOs in the company who used to know the value of investigative journalism. So it will take you a week to do a short story. It will take you a month. It will take you 9 months. There's one that took us 1 year and a half that made us travel to the US, to the UK,
Just to
to
get
Zimbabwe
facts.
to get one story. Yes, and I think that is the beauty of investigative journalism.
Do you wish to go back to the newsroom and do an investigative story again?
I mean, you can now see I have white hair. We're now retired, but do I sometimes feel I should be on TV? Yes. Why? Because I feel sometimes maybe facts are not being presented well, or maybe I feel there's a gap that we need to fill. But do I want to go back into active journalism? No. I'm now transitioning from being a journalist into a politician. So I think I'll also come to your community and your friends in the future. If I'm running for national office to ask for your votes,
Inshallah.
please make sure
And
this
you will
is
get them.
yeah. Please make sure this bit is in your blog
Okay.
because I have a plan for the future.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope you will have our votes.
Asante
And
sana.
we will also talk to our people to give you
The
their votes.
votes. Okay.
Dennis, if you were to change anything in investigative journalism of today, what will it be?
Nothing.
It's okay.
If we were to enhance investigative journalism, then I will say that let's give investigative journalism more resources. Let not media houses feel they're spending so much money on investigative journalism. Let them support investigative journalists by giving them more resources and more independence. It's very, very important that they do that because that's the only way uh, this investigative journalists will not be compromised. It's the only way that they can be given a chance to be independent and get bold enough to report on more stories as they go forward.
Is there that one time that you ever received threats?
So many times, but we could not report them because we felt if we do report them, some other quarter will take advantage and then hurt us, and then they'll blame unknown forces for hurting us. So we will quietly tell the bosses we have received the threats, and the best they could do is get us out of the country. And we left the country so many times, of course, through the help of foreign embassies. Yeah, or we could be moved into safe houses where we will stay there with our family members for a few weeks. When things cool off, then we come back to the office. So there were so many threats, yes.
What is your advice to those who are willing to join investigative journalism?
Um, I think be courageous as much as you can. Go for it. Uh, but this industry of investigative journalism demands that you are impartial, demands that you're objective, and demands that you're bold. There's nothing bad like doing a story you know is not impartial, and doing a story that is partial and affecting the careers and lives of people. It's a wrong thing to do. It's immoral. As far as I'm concerned, the entire time I've been an investigative journalist, I have not been sued by anyone because I stuck to facts and facts alone, and I was very objective. That's why I'm able to walk around in this town as a very free person because I don't run away. I don't have anything to run away from.
Proudly.
Yeah, because I did my job and I did it to the best of my knowledge. And again, you have to put the society first. Yes.
Thank you so much, Dennis. I hope we'll have you again and again. This is Q&A Media. You're welcome anytime.
Asante
Thank you so
sana.
much for the lively conversation.
Asante sana. Okay.